I don't know. Tom, can you hear me? Ah, there you go.
There we go.
All
Yeah,
right. Very
yeah,
good. Very
you
good.
got it.
So, as I promised you, I'll make another two lines of my introduction. So, I'm
Okay.
teaching students here.
Hmm.
I've helped them to grow up with their confidence and start talking and making themselves available for presentations, projects like that. And I'm
Hmm.
really glad that some of them are now becoming great presenters.
Oh,
Although
great.
it
Hmm.
hasn't been some international projects, I'm still working on it,
Hmm.
but I'm very happy. And when
Oh,
your
good.
name popped up on my messenger, I got really, really, really excited.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you. I
All right.
appreciate that. Yeah, I'm ready to go. And like I said, whatever you do, say I am a great English speaker because you are. Okay. So and that's one of the things that anytime you are a speaker in front of an audience, because one of the most difficult things, other than being shy, is standing up and speaking. And it's one of the most fearful things one can do.
Uh huh.
So when you say,
Ah,
I
that's
am
true.
a great speaker, that opens up the universe and allows energy to come in to help you. Okay.
All right.
Mhm.
That's why I got the dare thing with me.
Oh,
The
okay.
first thing
Good
I
for
got
you.
a dream.
Well, I mean, see, that's the
Thank you.
thing.
Thank you.
Every great person that has ever done anything has always been afraid. But when they go and face their fear, let me give you an example. I used to have, well, I have OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, and one of my greatest fears is that I will not be able to keep on going or speak in front of people.
Hmm.
And this has been going through my mind here just a few seconds ago. But I face my fear, and come to find out, it's nothing but a thought, and that's it. So fear is false education about reality, false education about reality, or face everything and roll with it.
Finally, uh, just just last night, I read about OCD. I learned about Nikola Tesla.
Yes, he did everything in threes.
Yeah, that's true.
Uh,
That's true. Even
mhm,
he wanted to get 18 flip towels into his bedroom.
mhm. Right.
Okay, Tom, will I get the honor of knowing more of you?
Oh yeah. Okay. Let's rock and roll.
All right. So,
Mhm.
Tom, may I know who you really are, if you don't mind? Tell
I'm
me
really
more about you. I want to know about you.
Oh, okay. So are we live right now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. No.
I hope you
Okay.
don't mind.
No, not at all. Not at all. Well, anyhow, um, um, when I was growing up, when I was a kid, I had a great time. I used to go to work with my father all the time. My father was a black businessman. He was very successful. And he also always used to be with me and I with him because I loved going to work with him. He owned a laundromat and a dry cleaners and also a um um let's see here, a laundromat, dry cleaners, and also janitorial service. Because that was the
Mm.
only thing back in the late 50s, early 60s that they would let uh, African Americans or Black Americans to be able to do service stuff like maids and butlers and things like that. but he had to get his white attorney to go and purchase the washing machines. And
Okay.
and so he was able, in spite of all the odds, he was able to become successful. We ended up living in a 16-room house. We had a new car every other year. We lived on a 36-acre farm. We also had 3 homes that he owned, and we used to go on vacations, everything. My mother belonged to a group or organization called the Links, which is a group of notable women where their husbands or them themselves are fundraisers for the community, the Black community and other communities, where they would be wives of doctors, lawyers, also entrepreneurs, businessmen. And so my mother was a Lynx, and my sisters, they went to what is called charm school to learn how to use their social skills a little bit better, how to speak in public, how to use the right fork, and things like that. They used to have coming out balls, debutante balls, and they used to participate in all those type of things. We were all college bound and things like that, because that was not something that was unexpected, but something that was expected, to get good grades, excel in our classroom. Remember my father going to school one time and finding homework assignment that I didn't do, and he had a good talking to me. He says, "Son, no, you're to do your homework." He wanted me to become a doctor, as a matter of fact. But that all stopped at age 8 because my father died at age 45. And then my mother had to take on all these responsibilities. And at age 10, my mother had a nervous breakdown. And so she was put in an insane asylum, and she was just non-functional. And then at age 18, well, I shouldn't say, let me go back. At age 16, I developed obsessive compulsive disorder. And fear would overcome me, just grip me in its grasp. I would be in the middle of the class, and all of a sudden I would have a panic attack, and I would literally start shaking, and I would start sweating, and it was just horrible. So at age 18, and my grades started to suffer and things like that, and my grades dropped down to just a C average. Plus, also, I remember before then, being in the 2nd grade, I had a teacher that smacked me in front of the class.
Wow.
And exactly. And because I couldn't pronounce a word, she just bam, hit me. And I was never so embarrassed in all my life, and my grades from that point on just dropped. But what eventually happened, because I felt like I was stupid. When I was in the 1st grade, I got straight A's, no problem. I loved school. Exactly. I was telling my sisters, I love homework. Oh boy, because one memory that comes back to me is that finding out how to write the number 4. I said, "Oh, is that how you do it?" And I was just thrilled because I learned how to write the number 4, and I was just enthusiastic about it. And I used to bring home constantly my books. I would love to read, and I was encouraged, and I was smart and everything like that. And then that teacher smacked me, and I stopped participating in class because by that time my father had gotten sick, and my grades just dropped.
Oh.
And I was getting uh, C's and D's and failing grades where I was getting A's. I had nobody to support me because
Mhm.
my father had gotten sick and had passed away. And since I wasn't a bad child, never got into trouble, people left me alone. But I was suffering in silence because I remember going home and and just suffering, and my grades started to slip. And then, as the years went along, my sister and I told somebody what had happened, and my sister told me, "Well, you should have said something because we had the same problem with the same teacher." And I felt even worse because I felt that I wasn't even smart enough to defend myself. Okay, but what I was good at, I was good at
Wow.
sports. Uh,
Wow, that was really nice though. Come,
uh,
come, I'm really enjoying your story.
well, thank you. I appreciate it. It well, it's enjoyable telling you the story. It wasn't enjoyable at the time, but I enjoy telling it now because I know it probably helps somebody else.
Hmm.
So, my point is that if you are suffering and nobody will listen to you, you find somebody that will listen to you because there will be somebody that will put their hand on your shoulder and say, "Look, tell me all about it." You just got to keep asking. A teacher, a friend, an aunt, an uncle, a brother, a sister, a someone that will mentor you. And don't stop asking until you find somebody to help you. Because there are going to be a lot of people that's going to refuse you, and you're going to be embarrassed, but keep trying. And somebody simply tell them, "Look, I'm struggling." Somebody will listen to you. And then so I played football and things like that, and I was really good at it, but my grades were at C level. And then after I developed the panic attacks, I didn't know how I was going to be able to get what I was going to do in my life. And I remember applying to certain colleges, and some of them rejected me or whatever. And then I applied to this predominantly Black university called Central State University in Ohio. And I just had a C average. And so I remember my sister, and also going back to, I had someone tell me in my own family that I would never amount to anything. That was in my own family. Okay.
Wow.
So that made me, that you talking about putting um, salt on an open wound, that was even more hurtful to me.
That will hurt. That will
That,
hurt.
oh, it did. It did. I'm 64 right now, and I still remember that. Okay.
Wow. Wow.
So on the way to college, oh, well, how I was able to get into college was I played sports, I played football, and they wanted to have me on their football team. And so I said, okay, I'm going to go to this college. It was the only one that accepted me. But I never heard from the football team. And so I said, well, instead of worrying about going to practice, I think I study. And so I did. I kept studying, And so my first quarter there, because at this particular school, I they ran on quarter systems. Okay.
Wow.
And so the first quarter at that school, I had a 3.0, which is a B average. And
B average.
uh, then I got a 3.2 grade point average. And I had only by God's grace, I had a black professor that told me, Tom, you got one of the highest A's ever in my psychology class. So I want to compliment you in receiving a high grade like that. And from that moment on, all I needed somebody to do was just to pat me on my back and tell me that I was smart. And so my sister, on my way, on the way to college, she told me, Rusty, as you can tell by my red hair, uh, I used to have red hair. And so they called me Rusty. And they said, Rusty, regardless of whatever happens, always keep on going. Always keep on going. And so that's how I was able to push past the panic attacks, was I kept on going. And so I went through college and I did pretty well. I came out of college, and for my first job out of college, I became an assistant branch manager at a bank in Detroit, Michigan, here in the United
Wow.
States. And
Wow.
I hated it. I hated it.
How could you hate it? It was really awesome, you know?
It is. But the problem was that I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I said, because during my entire time in college, I was an undeclared major nearly. It was in the second year of college, I had to declare a major, which was, I said, okay, well, let me try business administration because my father was a businessman and so was I. As the years had gone on and I went back and looked at my grade point average, and I was looking at the classes that I did well in, I did well in all the humanities like psychology, sociology, but my lower grades were always in business. And so I didn't realize that my real path was really dealing with human nature. But to skip forward after all those years, I came out to California after they fired me from the job in Detroit, which they did me a favor. And I came here to California. And because they had fired me, my confidence was shaken. So I took jobs that didn't require a whole lot of thinking because I went back to thinking that I was stupid. And so I said, okay, well, let me get a job that didn't require a lot of thinking, and worked in the warehouse, drove a forklift, drove a truck, and things like that. Well, as the years went along of feeling stupid still, I got married, and this lady that I married, she was brilliant. She could read the entire book and repeat every word back to you with understanding. She had a great
Wow.
mind. Okay.
Wow.
And so, in order to support her and then eventually my child, I had to find a job that would support us. And so, because I was selling insurance and things like that, because people were telling me that I was a good speaker. And so I got a job that supported my wife and my family quite well. Well, during that period of time, somebody at work had said to me, "Man, you're kind of stupid, aren't you?" And I said, "What?" And I remember going home talking to my wife. Now, my wife was from El Salvador in Central America, and she was uh, um, accepted at one of the highest schools in El Salvador. Let's see here, either it was 4 or 2,000 people applied to it, and only 200 got in, and she was one of the 200. It was so prestigious that the president of El Salvador sent his kids there, and so she, even though she came from a dirt poor background, she was still accepted to the school, and she graduated at the top of her class, as a matter of fact. And so one day when I came from work, and I said, I think I'm stupid. And my wife got a hold of me. She says, Tommy, that was stupid for thinking that you were stupid. Do you think I would marry somebody that was stupid? And that was over 30 some years ago, and I still remember that. Okay, so as the years went along, we were able, she became a nurse. I was trying to get her into medical school in El Salvador, but that fell apart. And so we were able to purchase a house. But during that time also of me working these jobs, I was still reading and learning. I was still learning how to write properly and better with clarity. As a matter of fact, for those out there, go to my Facebook page and you will see some of my writing.
You know,
And so as time went along, I got bored with those type of jobs. And so I did what was called a Ben Franklin list. On one side, I wrote the positive things that I like. And the other side, I wrote down the negative things. I said, I like speaking. I like motivating people. I like telling my story to help lift up everybody. And during those years, a teacher got a hold of me, a master teacher. She introduced me to Shakespeare. She introduced me to Edgar Allan Poe. She introduced me to, let's see here. I think of it in a second, but all the great famous writers. And so I've
Edgar
read
Allan
them.
Poe. I read him.
Okay. The Raven, and also Nietzsche, also The Prophet by Cabrim. There's all, but I thought I was not that bright, and so my teacher, because I was so afraid of Shakespeare, but my teacher, my master teacher, she introduced me to Shakespeare. There's a booklet, No Fear Shakespeare. On one side, it has the Elizabethan English and then the modern day English. And so I read Hamlet, the Merchant of Venice, Macbeth,